Rick James lived a life that was as wild as his music, but behind his fame, there was a bitter truth. From career challenges to legal troubles, James's life was far from perfect. Join us as we dive into the insane story of Rick James, James's early struggles for successes.
Sometimes, like an older brother, you got to go upside their head, you know. I had to go upside his head a couple times. You know, Charlie came out of the Navy.
Rick James was known for his groundbreaking music, praised for his unparalleled imagination and ability to transcend genres. He was an expert at mixing funk, soul, rock, and R&B, crafting classic songs such as Super Freak and Give It To Me Baby that continue to connect with listeners. James, with his captivating presence on stage and bold nature, transformed funk music, influencing many artists with his contagious rhythms and fearless genuineness. His talent for creating engaging tunes and original beats solidified his reputation as a genuine music trailblazer. Rick James's path to stardom was far from traditional. In his first time at Motown, he served as a staff writer, creating songs for well-known artists such as The Miracles, Bobby Taylor and the Vancouvers, and the Spinners. Despite the opportunity to improve his songwriting abilities, James felt undervalued and inadequately compensated in this position. His unhappiness pushed him to pursue alternative methods of earning money, resulting in one of the most controversial periods of his life. At this point, James met singer Jimmy Ruffin, who was the brother of David Ruffin from The Temptations. Ruffin suggested a risky business idea, acting as pimps and employing their girlfriends as staff. For many people, the idea would have been impossible to consider, but James viewed it as a chance. When they came back to Canada, he and Ruffin dipped their toes into sketchy dealings. In Glow, the autobiography of Rick James, James is depicted as a conflicted participant during this time. He stated that he had excessive empathy for the job, explaining that he wouldn't pressure tired women to work, would give them money, and would step in to shield them from abusive clients. Even though James left behind this way of living, once he became successful in his music career, he never completely rejected the beliefs that influenced his previous lifestyle. Later on, he utilized his time in the intimate industry to enhance his image as a defiant and larger-than-life character. Following the release of some singles with A&M Records, James came back to Buffalo and inked a deal with Gordy Records, a label under Motown. The collaboration had a positive impact on both James and the brand.
What did he say I called him?
Darkness.
What did he say I called him?
Darkness.
Yeah, Brother Darkness. That's right.
During that period, Motown was facing challenges, experiencing a drop in album sales as the 1970s ended. James's initial album with Gordy, Come Get It, 1978, signaled the start of his journey to fame. The album, boosted by hit songs such as You and I, achieved double platinum status, reviving the Motown label. Gordy released 10 of James's albums over the following years, during which his creative output thrived. His music mixed rock, funk, pop, and new wave, resulting in a genre he called punk funk. Yet, it was his album, released in 1981, titled Street Songs, that solidified his position in music history. This album showcased popular songs like Give It To Me Baby, Ghetto Life, Fire and Desire, and the famous Super Freak. The album was acclaimed for its innovative mix of genres and sold more than 3 million copies in the US alone. It was a pivotal moment in James's career, displaying his skill in blending Parliament-style funk with the changing sounds of pop and rock. Although he reached this peak, James found it challenging to achieve the same level of success as Street Songs. Even though he kept putting out successful songs in the 1980s, his fame started to decrease. Some audiences were turned off, and his mainstream appeal was limited by the overt, intimate, and substance references in his music, videos, and live performances. James's inability to reach the same level of fame as Prince was due to this barrier, which fascinated some people. While Prince rose to A-list superstardom due to his versatility and innovation, James gained more notoriety for his outrageous behavior and substance-infused lifestyle than for his music. In the public's view, Rick James exemplified the persona of a wild and rebellious performer. Known for his exaggerated antics and polarizing behavior, his persona became a subject of fascination and mockery. Years later, his notorious reputation would be remembered in comedic sketches on Chappelle's Show, where his life was comically caricatured, yet always based on reality. As they say, to every successful man, there's a story. What was the story behind James's hunger for fame and wealth? Let's find out. Early years and struggles. Rick James, whose birth name was James Ambrose Johnson Jr., experienced a challenging childhood that influenced his future endeavors and success. James, the most mischievous of Mabel's 8 children, frequently caused chaos in his family home. His behavior varied from stuffing the household tub with homeless canines to sprinkling irritating powder on his infant sibling's back. He also placed a pearl inside his brother's ear. Rolling Stone reported that at 13 years old, James was already stealing cars, either for excitement or to see his girlfriends on the opposite side of town. During his early teenage years, he engaged in criminal activities such as stealing cars, using substances, and breaking into houses. Even though James was ultimately found to be mentally sound by courts and doctors, his actions can be attributed to a challenging childhood. James experienced uncertainty in his early years due to his father leaving the family when he was 7, while they were struggling financially. Mabel, his mother, tried to support her children, but led a contradictory life. She was a devout Catholic who was also involved in unlawful behavior, managing gambling businesses for the Italian mafia. Young James frequently assisted her by transporting numerous books in sizable shopping bags during the cold winters, a duty he later remembered with sorrow. Afraid of being forced to fight in the Vietnam War, James made a drastic decision when he was only 15 years old. He falsified his age in order to join the Naval Reserve to dodge the draft. Nevertheless, military life was too much for him to handle. He characterized it as oppressive, pointing to a struggle with strict organization and uniformity. Instead of that, he spent his time drumming for jazz bands and using substances. In 19 his avoidance of military responsibilities finally led to him being called into active duty. Refusing to obey, James escaped to Toronto, Canada.
I was a little apprehensive, I was a little, it's different playing places where you never played, and you don't know how the reactions are going to be,
In Toronto, his life veered in a creative direction. At that place, he encountered significant musicians, such as Joni Mitchell and Neil Young, and established a group named the Mynah Birds. Neil Young eventually became part of the band, and Motown Records took notice of their talent. During his time at Motown, Stevie Wonder was impressed by James' performance when they crossed paths. When inquired about his name, James provided the alias Ricky James Matthews. Suggesting a simpler name change to Rick James, Wonder indicated it would eventually become iconic. Despite the optimistic start with the Mynah Birds, James's lingering problems resurfaced. He was still on the run from the Navy after deserting, but was apprehended and spent a year in a military jail. This signified the conclusion of the Mynah Birds, but did not signal the termination of James's musical adventure. The obstacles he encountered enhanced his character, inspiring the enthusiasm and defiance that would shape his successful journey as a renowned funk artist. Finally, James' struggles paid off, and he found himself at the top with other top singers. Do you think this phase of his life came easily, or were there challenges attached to it? Keep watching to find out. Career successes and fame. Rick James was not only a funk icon, he was also a talented songwriter and producer who made a significant impact on music history. In 1908, he demonstrated his ability to work with renowned artists by writing, producing, and performing on the Temptations' popular track, Standing on the Top. James was also heavily involved in Eddie Murphy's music journey, collaborating on songwriting, production, and performances for Murphy's popular hit, party all the time. One of the most memorable partnerships James had was the result of a chance meeting at Motown. As he strolled through the company's main office, he caught sight of a commanding voice that caused him to pause abruptly. The young, unidentified vocalist was Teena Marie. James was instantly enthralled, remembering later, "I had never before experienced such a diverse display of emotions." This unexpected encounter signaled the start of a special connection, both musically and personally. James mentored Marie, overseeing the production of her first album and guiding her to achieve success in the commercial music industry. Collaboratively, they produced timeless music, such as their famous duet, Fire and Desire, which is still considered a classic today. James and Marie's relationship moved beyond professional collaboration to romantic involvement, yet their relationship did not last long, as Marie blamed the split on James's erratic behavior and wild ways. In spite of their contrasts, they remained best friends, and James formed a strong connection with Marie's daughter. Their bond remained strong until the final moment. During his last music show in 2004, Rick James and Teena Marie performed Fire and Desire together, solidifying their status as an iconic music duo. However, James's early years wasn't the only controversial story in his life. Did you know that one of the greatest feuds in rock history was between Rick James and Prince? Let's delve right into it. Rick James versus Prince, a rivalry fueled by talent, ego, and revenge. Rick James and Prince, two of the most dynamic entertainers of their era, shared a complex relationship marked by competition, respect, and allegations. In 1980, as Prince was on his way to stardom, he performed as the opening act for Rick James on the Fire It Up tour. At that point, James was already a popular funk legend, known for his flashy performances and many successful songs. Yet, what started as a mentorship for the young artist quickly evolved into a fierce rivalry that sparked years of conflict between the two icons. During James' birthday celebration on tour, there was a well-known incident that happened. During a mischievous and aggressive act, James reportedly grabbed Prince's hair and poured cognac into his mouth. Prince, who was known for his moderate drinking, was visibly disturbed, as James and the rest chuckled at his response. The hostility between them increased as the tour continued. Night after night, Prince's show started to outshine James, and crowds were drawn to the younger artist's innovative and daring style. James grew more and more irritated, believing that Prince was not just taking credit for his ideas, but also copying him. He later claimed that Prince had imitated his distinctive mannerisms with the microphone, funk chants, and even his iconic hand gesture. James stated that Prince was imitating his microphone movements very well. Their competition was intensified by their resemblances. Both were daring, intimately charged artists who were skilled at merging funk, rock, and pop to create a captivating sound. The disagreement became more intense after James chose to take revenge. Reports state that James stole Prince's synthesizers in an act of seeking revenge. Reportedly, he employed the gear for his 1981 classic Street Songs, which turned out to be one of James' top albums, including popular tracks such as Super Freak and Give It To Me Baby. Later, it is said that James gave back the synthesizers with a sassy note expressing gratitude, intensifying their competition even more. During the 1980s, Prince's popularity grew, while James's success dwindled. Prince became a superstar with albums such as 1999 and Purple Rain, establishing himself as one of the most groundbreaking and impactful musicians in history. At the same time, James faced challenges in sustaining his previous success, in part because of his growing erratic behavior and rising substance misuse.
How many people in Buffalo? About 500,000 people. And we got some good people come out of there. Grover Washington.
Although James and Prince have their unique qualities, their rivalry is still seen as an intriguing aspect of music, as it represents a clash between two influential personalities that changed the landscape of funk and pop culture. Rick James's career started to decline by the mid-1980s. While he kept putting out music, none of his subsequent albums achieved the same level of commercial success as street songs. While James' rankings on the music charts dropped, he continued to stay in the public spotlight by sharing scandalous tales about his substance habits and crazy adventures with rock musicians. One of his most notorious stories involved his substance-fueled rampages and trips to rehab alongside Aerosmith's Steven Tyler, showcasing James's harmful association with substances. Substance was consistently present in James's daily routine, frequently combined with other substances to maintain his extravagant way of living. James's reliance on substances largely shaped his later career, whether he was socializing with other musicians or using alone in hotel rooms. His frequent clashes with law enforcement were also a result of his reputation as a heavy user. While on tour, James constantly dealt with police scrutiny, further compounding his list of troubles with legal issues. The impact of decreasing sales, substance addiction, and lawsuits had a negative effect. In 1990, James was left without a music label. His previously successful career was disrupted by low sales, controversies, and his struggle to conquer his personal issues. While his musical reputation stayed strong, his downfall was a sharp difference from his previous success. Rick James and the unexpected windfall from Mick Hammer. Rick James had an unexpected career revival in 1990, all thanks to MC Hammer's hit song, You Can't Touch This. The song featured a prominent sample of James's 1981 hit Super Freak, exposing a younger audience to his music. Though Billboard lauded Hammer's sampling technique for its ability to grab attention by riding on the coattails of a popular song, Rick James held a contrasting view. At first, he showed no excitement, expressing his feelings in a straightforward manner. I was not impressed with that crap. James wasn't only irritated by Hammer's unconventional methods. The rapper sampled the famous Super Freak riff without permission, leading to quick action by James's legal team. After a legal dispute, Hammer was ultimately obligated to provide James and his co-writers of Super Freak with a portion of the royalties. This choice guaranteed that the song would keep producing significant revenue for James's estate in the following years. Upon looking back on the situation, James confessed that, "You can't touch. This helped me earn a great deal of money and greatly increased my appreciation for sampling." Even with the sudden increase in money, James stated that he would have never given permission for Hammer to use Super Freak in his music if he had asked beforehand. Ironically, the profits from the song supported James during a period when his personal music failed to attract attention from the audience. In the early 1990s, James had plenty of money from royalties, but struggled to find enthusiasm for his new work. Despite financially benefiting from MC Hammer's success, Rick James' personal life was spiraling out of control. His health, behavior, and reputation were all negatively affected by years of heavy substance use. At this point, James had developed a strong addiction to freebasing substances, resulting in more and more risky and hazardous actions. One event during this time illustrates clearly how addicted he was. Following a MC Hammer concert, James reconciled with the rapper and joined him on stage to perform You Can't Touch This. It was a special occasion of harmony and festivity for the two artists. After the show, James promptly went back to his harmful behaviors. According to Race Newman, the person who supplied him with substances, James grabbed his crack pipe right after getting off stage. What came next was both surprising and indicative of the disorder in his life. While trying to torch away crack remnants on a plate, James inadvertently caught the plate on fire. While holding the plate on fire, he accidentally let go of it, causing his robe to catch fire. The flames quickly extended, wrapping around the sleeves of his robe. Newman successfully put out the fire with a bedspread, averting a potential disastrous incident. During a moment that showcased the extent of his dependency, James, still smoking and apparently unbothered, took the plate into his room to resume his substance consumption. So, what exactly made James' story insane and tragic? What do you think ended his life? And how? Keep watching. Personal life and tragic end. James' private life was tainted by scandals, legal issues, and a struggle with substance misuse that ultimately eclipsed his professional life. Rick James's life was an intricate blend of genius and disorder, propelling him into the spotlight before his eventual downfall, rendering him a mysterious figure in music history. In 1991, Rick James went through a very difficult time in his life. His spiral into despair began with the loss of his beloved mother. Looking back on that period, James later penned, "There was no barrier preventing me from sinking into the deepest depths of hell." His sorrow deepened as years of substance misuse drove him into a downward spiral of self-destruction. That year, James and his girlfriend, Tanya Hijazi, were taken into custody for a shocking crime that would change the course of his life and career. The couple was alleged to have confined and attacked a female visitor in their residence while indulging in substances for an entire week. Reports indicated that the woman was bound, tortured, using a hot pipe and knife, and coerced into consuming substances and participating in activities she did not consent to. While they were released on bail for that incident in 1992, James and Hijazi were also involved in another case concerning the abduction and attack of music executive Mary Sauger. Sauger claimed that the couple imprisoned her for 20 hours and subjected her to physical violence. These awful offenses caused James's private life to be publicly scrutinized, damaging his reputation. In 1993, James and Hijazi faced legal proceedings for what they had done. During his court appearance, James admitted to battling with substance addiction, but adamantly refuted any accusations of misusing, stating, "I harm substances, not women." James was convicted by the jury for assaulting and falsely imprisoning Sauger, along with substance offenses. Hijazi admitted to assault and was sentenced to 15 months in prison, while James received a 5-year sentence. While serving his sentence, James professed to have composed more than 300 songs, showing his enduring creativity in the face of hardship. James was freed from jail in 1996, following a slightly more than 2-year sentence. He wasn't freed because of behaving well, but because the investigator in his case was discovered to have committed misconduct by offering substances and money to a witness. Even though he was free, James still encountered difficulties, such as a lawsuit from Sauger that resulted in over $1 million in damages being awarded. After being set free, Rick James tried to resurrect his life and profession. In 1997, he dropped the album, Urban Rhapsody, achieving moderate success and showcasing his fans his great talent. Nevertheless, his attempts to fully recover were impeded by his worsening health and personal challenges. In the late 1990s, James's body showed significant effects from his history of substance misuse. In 1998, he had a stroke while performing at a concert and had hip replacement surgery to fix issues from years of performing and substance misuse. These health issues signaled the start of a gradual deterioration in physical condition. In 2004, Rick James made an appearance on Chappelle's Show, exposing him to a fresh audience of fans. His humorous recounting of adventurous experiences, combined with Charlie Murphy's anecdotes, reignited public curiosity in his life and music. Even though this brief comeback gave him some attention again, it did not last long. James was discovered deceased in his Los Angeles residence on August 6, 2004. His age was 56. He died from pulmonary and cardiac failure, increased by years of health issues such as diabetes, heart disease, and residual effects of a stroke. Even though his system contained different substances, none were identified as the main reason for his death. Rick James's love life was just as turbulent as his professional life. He shared a strong connection with singer Cyville Morgan, with whom he had 2 children named Tienza and Rick Jr. From 1982 to 1984, James was also in a relationship with actress Linda Blair. Their passionate bond was filled with sorrowful moments. Blair's choice to end a pregnancy without involving James caused him immense heartbreak. In his memoir, he looked back on the sorrow of losing their unborn child and pondered on how it could have impacted his life. His popular song, Cold Blooded, drew inspiration from Blair, capturing the passion of their connection. In 1989, James started a tumultuous relationship with 17-year-old partygoer Tanya Hijazi. In 1993, they welcomed a son named Tasman, and they tied the knot in 1996, following their respective stints behind bars. Nonetheless, their marriage concluded in divorce in 2002, contributing additional complexity to James's personal life. Even with all the upheaval, James continued to have a strong friendship with his longtime partner Tina Marie. Their connection went beyond music, and Marie was candid about her sorrow after his passing. During his professional life, Rick James developed strong bonds with a number of notable individuals, such as Eddie Murphy and Smokey Robinson. His bond with Murphy also included Murphy's sibling, Charlie, who became known for sharing their outrageous escapades on Chappelle's show. James admired Marvin Gaye as well, and they had a close bond. James was even named the godfather of Gaye's daughter, Nona. His partnerships with The Temptations continued to highlight his respect for Motown icons. The group sang backup on his popular song Super Freak and collaborated with him on additional projects, solidifying their musical connection. James's relationships were filled with drama. Actress Debbie Allen, a good friend, once talked to him about his self-destructive behavior, advising him to make a change. Despite making a promise to change, James still found himself being consumed by his addiction. Rick James's legal issues went beyond his convictions in the 1990s. In 1998, he faced allegations of intimately mistreating a 26-year-old woman, but the charges were later dismissed. In 2020, a woman filed a $50 million lawsuit against his estate, claiming that James had assaulted her in 1979 when she was a minor. The case was eventually dropped, but it still brought attention to the enduring intricacies of his legacy. The passing of Rick James in 2004 signaled the conclusion of a chapter in funk music. After his death, supporters and close ones came together to honor the man who had changed the genre. A large crowd gathered in Buffalo, New York, for a public viewing to pay tribute to his memory. Afterwards, a small funeral took place, and his remains were laid to rest at Forest Lawn Cemetery in Buffalo, keeping him connected to his origins. On that day, a tribute concert was held for free to honor his legacy and music, highlighting his influence on the field. Even with his imperfections, Rick James continues to have a significant impact on music. His unique sound was created by blending funk, soul, and rock seamlessly. Hits such as Super Freak and Mary Jane still connect with listeners, demonstrating the lasting impact of his talent. Although his life has been filled with tragedies, it has also been characterized by resilience and creativity. Rick James was a man who had conflicting qualities. He was a musical genius, but his personal struggles frequently overshadowed his talents. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.